One of the drivers of our decisions and our belief systems is, again, our life experiences. And one of the things that we've believed over the years, because of what we've heard, is that cow poop is worse for the environment and a way worse source of emissions to the and impacting our ozone layer, which is very interesting that a factory in a car would be better than cow poop. Just logically, that doesn't make sense. But I have seen, not to be named, documentaries that suggest that very
Mhm.
strongly. And
Mhm.
so I just want to provide a little clarity around that issue around cow poop and that belief system that that's really harming the environment.
Totally. Yes. And so when you look at the impact that livestock overall has on our greenhouse gas emissions, it is so small to begin with compared to transportation, energy production, and the fueling of our economy of everyone wanting to buy everything they want all the time and have next day delivery, right? I mean, that's the problem. But there's a lot of people that would like cows to be the big problem because then it lets them not be the focus of the issue,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So like it's almost 80% of the greenhouse gas emissions coming from transportation, energy, and industry. Okay.
Mm.
In the US, cow, it's actually their belches that people are complaining about the most.
Hmm.
And it's because when they eat grass and things we can't digest and turn it into protein, which is pretty magical thing that they can do. In their rumen, there's
Hmm.
bacteria that it's breaking it down, and methane is a byproduct of that process. Now, a lot of this stuff that they're eating actually would sit in a pile and emit methane as it broke down at a dump. And so these cows can eat things like the hulls from the pea protein industry, the leftover grains from the alcohol and ethanol industries, like things that we have no other use for. Cows can eat them and turn it into protein. That's pretty great.
That's amazing.
When the methane from the cows goes up into the atmosphere, it lasts about 10 years. And
Hmm.
then it's broken into CO2 and H2O. So H2O is water and it becomes part of the rain cycle. It's not going anywhere. It's just part of the rain cycle. The CO2 gets taken up by the plants in
Hmm.
photosynthesis. They release O2, which is oxygen, which we need to breathe. And then the C is the carbon, and the carbon becomes the plant, becomes the roots, and is actually fed down to the microorganisms underground, which are eating those little sugars, the carbon, and exchanging that which they're getting from the roots for nutrients that the plant needs to live. It's like this symbiotic
Mm.
relationship that the roots of the grass has with all the living things underground. They're like
Hmm.
going and mining minerals and all that kind of stuff. And carbon can actually get sequestered in the ground
Hmm.
from this process. And so it's a circle. It's not
Hmm.
like just cows are emitting methane and so we must eliminate cows, which is
Hmm.
the problem with people making decisions who don't really understand agriculture or nutrition and
Hmm.
the nutritional impacts of what would happen. So there was a study that was published in PNAS. I can get you the link, that looked at what would happen if we eliminated all animal source foods from the US diet. They found that greenhouse gas emissions would only go down about 2.5%,
Mm.
but overall calories would go up because we need to seek protein, and
Yeah,
if you're not going to get it from meat, then you're going to have to get it from plants, and
gotta
you
eat
need
a
a lot
lot.
more
Gotta eat a
calories.
lot.
Yes. Carbohydrate intake would go way up, and
Mhm.
nutrient deficiencies would go way up. So we would see more B12, more
Mm.
calcium deficiencies, and essential fatty acids. And so is a net bad thing to get rid of livestock. And we don't, the other piece of this is that we don't have more methane emitting grazing animals today than we did before we annihilated the bison and all the other wild animals that were in North America. So we've just replaced the bison and all the other wild grazing animals with cattle. And if we manage them properly and move them and everything,
Mhm.
we can produce like the most ideal food for humans,
Mhm.
largely on land that doesn't need to compete with cropland. We can still raise crops, but
Mhm.
we can do it in a more sustainable way.
I love it. Going back to the Animal Channel, right?
Yeah.
I'm watching the apes, right? And with their big bellies and, just kind of hanging out. And I don't remember how many hours of the day they were eating, but it was most of the hours of the day.
Yeah.
I'm a busy guy. I don't have time to eat all day. It's like I don't have even if I had their exact digestive system, as is the case for the cows. I don't know how many hours they eat all day,
They're
but I
chewing
don't
all the time.
all the time. I've
Yeah.
never seen a cow not chewing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have time for that. And again, shout out to anybody. Because when I was a vegetarian, I certainly had to eat that much, but I definitely had to eat often because I got hungry, and I just it just wasn't sustainable for me personally. So, and there are patients I have that are doing quite well with a plant-based diet, but most of my patients don't. So for those who have, develop the type of system or have the type of system where it works well, I think that's great. But I do agree that I feel much better when I eat animal. And again, that's why I feel like I'm a carnivore most days, most of the
Yeah.
time.